Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome back to our next episode of DevChatter. My name is Brendan, as you can probably see right there below me, and this here channel is DevChatter. I first off want to apologize for the delay. There was a slight technical difficulty there on my end. I was dropping some frames, which usually means there's some kind of internet problem. So I ended the stream and restarted it for a second there, and I'm hoping that everything clears up, but we will see. It's still dropping some, so there might be something going on with my network connection. If the stream is not clear, let me know. I am okay with delaying it until my ISP clears things up, or we can figure things out about that. I just want to make sure that the stream that we get to you is actually a good one. Okay, so I first off want to let everybody know a little bit about the channel. So for anybody who's new here, this is DevChatter. We host a programming live stream that we do 4 times a week on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. 4 times. Our schedule can be found both below us here on Twitch in the panels, where it will show that time in your corresponding time zone as it tries to figure it out. If you are unable to see that panel for whatever reason and you want to try asking our chatbot what our schedule is, you can ask it by typing in chat as well. So to get the schedule in my time, for example, I would just do !schedule and then -4, because I am at UTC -4 is my time zone. So that will get me that value, which comes back with 2 p.m. on Mondays, 2 p.m. on Tuesdays, noon on Thursdays, and 1 p.m. on Saturdays. The few things that we do here on this channel, we like to have guests on here. I am planning a couple of guests that are going to be on some upcoming streams. I will show you the information about those over here on our stream info section on GitHub. And by the way, for anyone who is wondering, all of the code that we do here on stream is actually stored out on GitHub. So this week, we have a guest that is going to be here on Thursday. So he's going to be up there in that corner of the screen up there. And that is Chris Woodruff that will be here. And he is going to be pair programming with us using VS Live Share. So if you haven't seen that, it's really cool and is a way for us to both edit the same code at the same time. So it's really, really neat how that works. Okay. Then next week, we have another couple of things going on. So next week we'll have on Monday, so a week from today, our next episode of our Learn to Code in C# series. So twice, we have done 4 episodes of our Learn to Code series. This will be the 5th episode coming up, and that is for beginner programmers who want to learn about C#. But if you are not a beginner programmer but just want to learn C#, you are welcome to join us there and ask questions. Your questions will probably be higher level, so if they're quick, I'll answer them. If not, I'll suggest talking about them somewhere else. Yes, as S&B just mentioned in the chat, there are some neat new features that have been added to VS Live Share in the recent updates. We are going to take a look at some of those. I'm probably not going to use the audio portion. There's a separate extension that you can install that will do audio in addition to just the live share itself, so you can be on a call while pair programming with someone remotely. I do want to mention that if you are not a beginner programmer and you already know C#, you are also welcome to show up to any of our Learn to Code in C# episodes. We have a number of people that do show up and help answer questions in chat as people follow along with us as we code. And some of those more advanced developers also like to just follow along with the code, because why not? It's fun. And then next Thursday, August 9th, we're going to have Cassandra Ferris here, and she's going to talk to us about how to describe it, building a professional career in the industry. So how to connect to the industry and things like that. So we haven't come up with a title of what that topic is going to be yet, but once we do, it is going to be listed here in our stream info section. So if you want to find out in advance, you could look here. You could also hop on our Discord, which is a place that a number of us are chatting outside of the regular stream. So if you head on over to our Discord, you can find us there chatting about different development topics, and I occasionally also announce things over there. So you are welcome to join that as well. Okay, so I think that's a pretty good basis of those things. So the main project that we do here on this channel is our chatbot. And welcome, David. Thank you for following. So as I was saying, the main thing that we work on here is our chatbot. It's not our only project. We work on a few others. And we do occasionally just do one-off episodes where we're going to do a single thing like a programming exercise or a kata or something like that as well. But our chatbot is our favorite thing that we've been working on here for quite a while. It's hard to believe that we're on episode 80 of DevChatter already, and we've gotten fantastic reception, so thank you everybody for following, chatting, and watching as we build fun stuff together. If I haven't mentioned it before, you are all welcome to code along, do your own versions of things, work on a side project that's similar, chime in with any ideas that you have. If you see something weird in my code, let me know about it. Ask a question, make suggestions. Your level of involvement is entirely up to you, and I'm hoping that you all join in and continue to make DevChatter a fun experience for everyone. Okay, so in our chatbot, we are currently working on the overlay branch, and there is one thing that I just remembered that I was going to do before we started that I didn't get to earlier today. I am going to merge in the code that we were working on last time. So that code should be merged in. There we go. Okay, just didn't want to leave that pull request sitting around. Okay. So, now that we've got that out of the way, let's jump over to our overlay. So, we started this on our previous stream, this branch that we're working on here, and what we were setting up is an overlay to display over here on our screen. So, in order to do this stream, I am running a software, we'll say called OBS, and that is Open Broadcast Software or something like that. I don't remember exactly what the acronym is, and this software lets me display stuff from my screen as well as put in little bits like this little thing below my name, and all the other pieces that you see here, like the chat window that's right over here by my mouse, and you'll notice I can't get my cursor over it because that's coming in from the broadcast software. So it's not really there on my screen, obviously. So I can't actually get my screen out, I can't get my cursor off of that screen. So that's how that ends up working. Welcome, Mage. And I saw S&B talking in chat as well, so welcome also, and Greendolf, welcome. Okay, so what we set up last time, we are using a piece of software, a class, a library, a framework, whatever you want to call this one. It's more of a framework, I guess, since there are multiple libraries involved in it, called SignalR. And that's what this is here. And SignalR is a tool that allows you to have persistent communication between a client and a server. In this case, our server is running on our web project here, so this is an ASP.NET Core project, and it is represented through some class libraries in .NET for SignalR. And these class libraries allow me to run what is called a hub. And a hub is essentially the connection that these clients attach onto. So normally the way that you would use this is this would be on your web server, and say you have a bunch of users that need to connect on, they would each connect to the hub, and then the hub would be able to, you know, have persistent communication for them. So the textbook example of where SignalR is useful is an example where you are building a chat client. So there was a chat client created a while back called Jabber. And Jabber, I don't remember if it's still in use anywhere, but it is this right here. Oh, apparently you can't get to it anymore. Well, either way, Jabber was built as an example application, and you could kind of consider it like connecting to an IRC server or a Slack channel, or, you know, whatever kind of chat client you want. Essentially, it was just channels, and it was all done through SignalR. So essentially, each person that connected on would just have regular chat experience, and it felt like you're just in a chat. So that's what this ends up creating for you. So SignalR lets you get this persistent connection. So the way that we want to use that here is we want to use that so that we can have our information from our bot automatically sent there. So imagine that it's like the chat messages we're getting. So that's what we end up getting out of this. Let me check chat. Blueberry, things are going well. VFRZ, hello, hello. I think I said hi to Greendorf already, but if not, hello again. And you gave an impromptu talk at a conference where you used SignalR to let the audience draw on your slides in real time. Greendorf, that is an amazing example and use of that. So that's actually kind of fun. I have actually given presentations not using SignalR, where we allowed audience participation, but using VS Live Share. So I mentioned before that VS Live Share is an extension in Visual Studio that allows you to do pair programming and things like that remotely. Essentially, this share button right here in the top right corner of the screen there, that share button will allow me to get a link that I can give to someone else, and they can connect into my Visual Studio. So I have given presentations in Visual Studio with people connected to my Visual Studio and making changes. It actually makes for very fun presentations, and would be a similar thing to having someone draw on your screen while you're giving a presentation as well. Very useful and fun. I love the idea there, Greendorf. Rubik's, my internet has been acting up, so I'm hoping that it clears up soon. If things get too bad, just chime in chat and let me know. There's not much that I can do about that. When I started the stream, I tested it, and I ran a speed test here on my network, and I got 5 megabits download speed and 1 up. And then I ran it again, and I got 100 down and 10 up. And then I ran it again, and I got, you know, like 2 and 1 again, or something like that. And so my internet's not super stable right now, but it's not going out. So if it gets too hard to understand me, just someone chime in chat and let me know. Okay, so this is the hub that we want to connect to. So we called our hub Bot Hub. Yeah, I know, really original on the name here, but good enough. The idea is that I want to be able to send messages to this display. So on my screen here around me, I actually have a web page opened up that you all cannot really see because I don't think there's anything on it, and I don't think you guys see it right now. But I am going to edit it all the same. Wait, ping it? Oh yeah, it is there. That's funny. I forgot about that. You guys can actually see the word ping it in the top left corner. That's actually our overlay. So cool, it is working. Confirmed. I will show you what I mean by that. So right here, that is actually this button right here. So button on click And right now, so we just hacked in our JavaScript right now. Don't worry, that's not where our JavaScript's going to live. We just wanted to make sure that we could do the SignalR connection. So that was the important thing to get in there first. So we are connecting out to SignalR, and what that allows us to do is make it so that when we clicked that ping it button, which I can't actually click right now because it's on my screen here. Yeah, I know, yeah. Did I make it more obvious that we're getting rid of that one there, Rubik's? I called it my function. So essentially the idea is when you click that, all it does is it sends a request out to the server, and the server responds back with another message. And so that's all it does. So it allows us to prove that that communication can happen. And if I remember correctly, we created a function called hype. So there's a hype command in there, and now it's kind of hard to read up there, but you should see the word hype up in the top above my head. So if we type in hype, you guys probably aren't allowed to say it many times in chat, but you should start seeing the word hype coming down on the screen up above. So you should see hype up there above my head. It's kind of hard to read the text, but you can probably see that there's something there. And that's actually proving the point that we can change that text. Actually, I know how to make that visible for you all. I'll put this up there. Now you can see it. See the text up above me? That's the hype text that we're adding. So every time I type in the word hype in chat, it shows up again up there. So that is our overlay. Mage, to answer that question, I can as long as I put the image in there. So remember, we're just displaying a web page. That's actually all that's up there is a web page. So that's how that displays. Zion, you won't be able to watch it on YouTube for a few weeks, so if anyone is not able to watch this, the place that you're going to want to do that is you're going to want to go to the Videos tab here on Twitch. So for anyone that is wondering, if you do want to catch any of our previous episodes, you can't catch one for one reason or another, just click on that Videos tab right there, and it will appear right about here. In fact, it's already here, so if you missed the beginning of this stream, you could technically be watching on the video right now, but that's not fun because you can't talk to me. So, it's right there. And I apologize, this one is literally just the starting video because I restarted when I noticed the networking issues. Okay. So that's how we do this connection. So the couple of things I want to do is I want to figure out what we actually want to put on this overlay. So, the connection seems to work, and we can definitely make stuff show up there. Let's add in our emote. Hang on. Where do I want to get that? Yeah. Sorry about that, Greendolf. As I mentioned, there is something up with my network connection, and I don't know what it is. So, I am hoping that that clears up soon. If not, I may have to talk to my ISP and complain because they killed my stream. DevChatter hype Twitch emote. So, interesting thing that you all might not know about, and that is that there is actually a website called twitchemotes.com. And as annoying as it is and as nice as it is, what this website does is it actually pulls all Twitch emotes that are used on any channel. So if you want to go get the image for any emote that's used anywhere on Twitch, you can actually find them here. Now, don't be a jerk and like steal and reuse people's emotes, because that's, you know, not cool. But if you just wanted to go like see one in big size to see what it was, this is the place that you can do that. So this is the emote that we use here for hype. So our subs here get to spam this emote in chat. Someone was just suggesting, hey, why don't we put this on the overlay when you type the hype command? So that is exactly what I'm going to do. That's not the name of this. Hang on. Root. Open in File Explorer. There we go. Copy the URL. Go back to the web page. Put that in there. Where do we want to put this? Images? We'll make an images folder. Images, and this will be called DevChatter emote.png. I don't know why they called it like 3.0, that's kind of annoying, but that seemed to work well enough. Okay, so you'll notice now the images folder I created is here, and inside of that is our DevChatter emote already. So that worked out pretty well. One of the nice things for people that don't know this, all the .NET Core stuff, so ASP.NET Core as well as the .NET Core console applications, all of them are just based on files being in the folder, unlike the previous .NET versions where the project file would have to actually have a reference to any files included in them. So that's why this just appeared here without having to do any extra work. Now, instead, they set it up the other way, so if you want to exclude something, there's an entry for that. So it's much cleaner and makes your project files nicer, and makes it a little less complicated when people are adding and removing files and source control, because you don't run into merge conflicts in CSproj files as frequently. So it's nice. Okay. So here's what I want to do. I want to add this image to the page, and I want the image to be hidden. Now again, this isn't going to be how we're going to build it, because we're going to do this with probably with styles and things like that, and we'll have a library that we'll have an actual JavaScript library. For now, I just want to put this in here. So I'm going to start off by just adding in the hype emote. So the hype emote is going to get us this, and now what I'm going to do to get that to refresh is I am actually going to manually refresh the overlay inside of here. There we go. Excuse me. And sorry about the cough. Getting over a mild cold. But that will not stop me from streaming. So, above my head, you will now see a hype emote. That hype emote, we do not want it to appear just yet. So, yes, I know, an inline style, don't kill me, it's not permanent, we're just messing with stuff just to see how well this is going to work. Okay. Now let me see it disappear. I'm going to manually refresh again. Okay, perfect. Okay. So we now have an image that is on there, that's on this page and not displayed. We want to get this image to appear when we call that. So what we're going to do, that is hilarious. I hadn't even realized it was, because we just kind of copy-pasted this in here. I hadn't even thought about the fact that we documented we're not even using jQuery. I guess it doesn't matter. Alright, we're going to call that hype emote. And then on this one, so our only connection, we connected to display message, and that was it. I want to make a different connection here. Is this one? Yeah, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to connect to a different thing. So this is on display message. We're going to call this one connect to hype. We're going to get this, and then instead of appending a child here, what is it? Show? No, we're not going to be able to do that here because we're not running jQuery. Why am I not getting this with jQuery? Is there a reason? Am I being crazy? Is it? There's not a reason. Why wouldn't we do that? GitHub just finished removing jQuery from their stuff, and they just use the vanilla DOM now. Oh, that's kind of funny, Greendolf. I had not realized that. Okay, so we're going to grab the hype emote. Hang on a second. I'm going to switch. Whoops. I'm going to switch over to here. So this send display message is what we called, but I am going to make a slightly different method called hype, and instead of calling that, we're going to call hype. Now, hype doesn't exist yet. It's about to, though. So the place where we define the methods that exist over here, so this is our JavaScript side. On the JavaScript side, we call the server like this. We say connection invoke and pass in what method we want to call on the server. On the client, we do it a little differently. We connect on saying what our name is. This is kind of like, here's our method name almost, for our client side method, you might say. So we are basically connecting onto the server and saying, hey, I've got a display message method, and this one's saying, hey, I've got a hype method. And what that does for us is that lets the server call us. When it does that, we want to make this interface have that method on it. So we're going to add hype. Hype does not need to have a message. There we go. Okay. When we call hype, it should call down to this method. As I said, it's not passing a message. So we are not doing that step. What can I do? Can I do this? I think I can get away with that. I think I can cheat that way. Although I could just do this. And then we don't match the other one, which is kind of annoying. Welcome, Spinky T. Let me see if that works. So now, on our hype command, we want to go in here, and we said display message, but I also want to call hype. So we're going to display the message hype hype. So we're going to send to the Twitch chat hype hype. We're going to display above my head the text hype hype, and we're going to cause the emote to appear as well. Okay, so I think that will work. Let me go ahead and run the bot again just to be sure that everything restarts. Then I'm going to refresh this overlay so that we can see it. And then once all that is good, we should be set. Okay, so time to hit the refresh button. That should have refreshed it. Let's cross our fingers and see what happens. Hype hype. Okay, didn't run everything. So, in order to see why, I am going to refresh this page and go to the overlay. Now I'm going to run hype again. Hype hype shows up. Perfect. Let's bring up our tools here. So there's our emote. Hype hype. Showing that, but we're not running the other one. Did I not fully wire something up? Handle command, we call hype hype. That's part of that interface. When we go to the implementation of this, oh, whoops. All right, I didn't actually do it. In our hub here, hype command runs, calls clients all hype. That should call down to here. We're gonna put that in. And if I click on ping, I get back pong. If I type in hype, I get hype hype, and I catch the debugger. There we go. Perfect. So it did call down to this. And the question is whether this actually ran. No, that bombs. Okay. Ah, I don't have jQuery on the page. That would be why. Well, that's annoying. I thought this thing had jQuery by default on it. It does, but I didn't include it on this page because I'm crazy. So, it was included on the base shared layout. And where is jQuery in here? And the reason I'm stealing it from here, so anybody who's wondering why I'm stealing it from this location, the way that ASP.NET Core works is it has this environment tag that it uses. And I want to make sure that I pull in the versions that it's using here so that I don't get any weird mismatches between the way that this page works and the other ones. So since I didn't give my overlay page the full layout from here, I do want to make sure that I still get these. So probably what I'm going to do is pull this into a partial view of some kind so that we can include this in addition to the layouts. We'll see how that goes. Okay. So we technically just need this development one for now. But this is what we're supposed to get when we're excluding development. So since these are just the script tags for including things, I am going to bring these onto this page. And the reason why is that the site.js, I have a feeling we are going to build our JavaScript framework for our entire site. When we do start setting that up, I want to make sure that we are consistent with how this works. So that's why I was saying we're probably going to extract a partial for this section so that our script tags are coming from the same place for the layout as they do in the overlay page. Important things to make sure that you do. For now, I am just going to shove these in here. And where was this? It's right after the footer. Okay. Nice. Render the script section. Why is this not in the script section? I guess that's for me to put my custom scripts in there. Okay. So here is what we are going to do. I am just going to toss this in here for now. And then that should suddenly start working, I think. We'll find out. I don't technically need to restart the site here, but I am going to do it anyway. Oh, glad to hear it. Yeah, apparently the last time there was an issue was 2 minutes ago. The time before that was 4 minutes ago, 6 minutes ago, 8 minutes, 12. Looks like every 2 minutes there's a problem. That or it reports it to me every 2 minutes. So hopefully things are back to normal. I would be thrilled if they are. So let's go back to the overlay. When I click ping, we get pong, and when I type hype, we get the hype emote. So yes. Alright, that means that if I refresh this view that is right above my head, so up there, and actually just so we can see that nicely, nope. Giving it a white background there so we can see it a little bit better. Type in the hype command and boom, there it is. Okay. So that's fantastic. So we can definitely make this stuff work. So we're going to figure out what other things we want to put on this screen. So all I wanted to do there was make sure that we had JavaScript libraries running, that everything was going to work nicely over here, because I hadn't proven yet to myself that everything was actually going to work the way we wanted it to. So that means we can include external libraries, we can reference image files, we can connect to SignalR, we can basically do whatever we want on this screen around me now. We are fairly certain of that. What that means is we can do things like have that hype emote display for a period of time. We could have it appear and grow to ginormous size, taking over the whole screen, and then disappear. Or some other variant of something that we want to do. Either way, obviously if we were going to have it grow to ginormous size, we probably want to get a higher resolution version of that image, as that is the like 128 pixel wide version. So we'll see. Okay. So now that we've gotten that working, we can do a couple of other things. So we can definitely talk to it. I'm trying to think if we need to make any other connections. I can't think of anything that we need to set up right now. So what I want to do is come up with our first set of commands that we want to have running in here. Now I'm going to create a separate group of these because these commands are only going to make sense in chat if you are planning on having an overlay. So inside of our commands folder, I want to make another folder, and I am going to call these, what do we want to call these? Overlay commands? Streaming commands? Maybe overlay commands? So, DevChatter core commands overlay. Yeah, overlays is fine for now. Is that not where I put hype? Where did I put hype? Where did I put the hype command? I didn't put it there. Oh, it's in the web project because it knows about the hub. Oh. I forgot about that. Okay. Well, in that case, I have a slightly different thing that I'm going to do. Here's what we're doing next. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to extract out the dependencies that we didn't extract out yet. So, step one, take a look in this project. This one is a Netcore 2.1 web project. Step two, take a look over here at the Twitch one. This one is a NetStandard 2.0 project. Yes, S&B, that's what I just figured out. We do need to move it. And here's what I'm thinking. I might be crazy. In fact, I'm probably crazy. So wiring up hype image display on overlay. I want to commit first before we do anything else because this next change is going to be a big one. Alright, so I had been meaning to do this for a while, and this one people are going to laugh about, probably. I want to see if I can get away with this class library being a net standard one, but I'm not 100% that I can. S&B, yes, the chat is way behind the video unless you refresh. Quick explanation for anybody who doesn't know how Twitch works in relation to stream delay. So if you ever notice that I'm responding to things really late, or that your text when you type it into chat appears over there in that chat box well after the message was actually sent, that means you're on a delay. Delays happen every time you see a buffer pinwheel. You end up behind by however much time you buffered. So if the stream was slow and you buffered for a second, you are 1 second further behind in your stream delay. So if you want to catch back up, the way that you do that is you refresh the Twitch page and it will catch you back up. But you are going to miss, say, 5-6 seconds if you're 5 or 6 seconds behind, for example. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I want to make devchatter.bot.infra.web for now. I'm not 100% that I want to keep this as a net standard library. We might change this to a net core, but we will see what we end up with. So we're going to make this class library. I am going to delete class 1 because we do not need class 1. And then I am going to open up this CS_proj file. Excuse me. Okay. So what I'm not confident on is that the reference to ASP.NET web libraries is going to work the way that I want it to. So we're going to grab aspnetcore.app and we're going to put that over here. So let me pull all of this actually. And over here, what I want to do, we're going to move Hangfire eventually, but not just yet. I'm going to do this. So these are for things that require access to web libraries, but that we don't feel should be living in the web project. So if there is something that needs that, this is where it's going to live. Then what we're going to try to do is keep just the pieces that require access to web over here and get as much of the rest of our code into core as we can. So we're going to practice good dependency management here. Let's go ahead and try building. I think I may have just built, but we're going to do it again just in case. Because I want to make sure that it's allowed to do this. Okay. So it wants to be on a net core app 2.1. So we're going to change to that because it doesn't want to connect to a net standard library. I was worried that might happen. Whoops. So there we go. We'll try this. We're going to give it the correct type of library. So the difference between net standard and net core is that net standard would have allowed us to still connect to a full .NET framework library, whereas net core means that we're now very, very tightly coupled to the idea of using net core. We still want, in our other projects, like our core project, to be on net standard. And the reason is that gives us the ability to know that we're not taking on too strong a dependency. Welcome, Surreal. Thanks for following. I like your name. Welcome to DevChatter. Why is that flagging that dependency? I think that might just need a refresh. I'm not sure what that's complaining about. Okay, so our code builds now. Let's go ahead and move the dependency to where we actually want it to live. So let's jump to our hype command, which is right here in our Solution Explorer window. I'm going to cut this, and I am going to move it over here for now. And this is not, as I mentioned, this is not permanently where we want this to live, because we want to get it so that all commands actually end up in core or something, or a library that's focused on what it's about. So since this one is a web library, this is where I want to have web dependencies that are not really the website, if that makes sense. So this is where things like caching, if we're using ASP.NET's caching, we want that to live here. So that's actually how we want to structure things. So if you notice that I create these infra projects, it's so that I can focus where we keep our dependencies, so we keep that out of everything else, because we don't want these dependencies spreading through our code. So putting them inside this library, I guess you can kind of say it polices us. It's not that I don't trust me. Obviously, I trust me to try and make good choices, but this puts a barrier in there so that it kind of keeps us in line a little bit, as it were. It's harder for us to mess up. It's a safety net for ourselves. Excuse me. Okay, so that should be able to live over there, except that I need to update the namespace because the web project does not have a reference to this, and this doesn't have a reference to core. So, step one, this needs to get a reference to the core project. The next problem we run into is this wants bot hub. That's not something I can easily replicate over to here. Because bot hub, that lives over in our project here right now. But technically, I think I can move this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the whole hubs folder and I'm going to move this over into the web project as well. Okay, now that I've moved that, our next problem is going to run into is that it won't know where these are when it attempts to create them. Constraints liberate, as I heard on a recent .NET Rocks podcast. Interesting, S&B. I wonder who they were talking to when they got that one. So notice that this is unavailable here, and it can't find the namespace either, and that is actually because we need to add a reference to our web project right to there. So our web project is the one that has references to all the other projects. That is because the web project is where things actually run. So when it comes runtime, it needs to actually have those references. In the past, I've done some weird tricks to try and flip around dependencies, and there are some things you can do to make sure that the dependency only exists at runtime and not at compile time. And that helps you to get the controls in place a little bit better, but that gets complicated. So we're not going to do that here on stream. So if anybody is wondering or knows about that kind of approach, don't worry. The reason we don't do that here is because we don't want to get so complicated that we confuse everyone. And Zultralord, I am going to be making that framework branch. And actually, I might make it on the stream. So that might be something we do this week. So I'm probably not going to call it framework. I'm probably going to call it core or something along those lines, or minimal, something like that. So for anyone who is wondering what Zultralord is talking about when he suggests the framework branch, what Zultralord is referring to is a request that he made to have a version of our chatbot, so the code that we're working on here, that is simplified down to just the base components. So essentially removing all the unnecessary commands, removing all the games and other things like that, so that you can just see the basic structure of how our code works. So essentially making a simple version for two nice purposes that would give us. One is that if someone wanted to go a different route, they wouldn't have to start from, so if they wanted to fork and go that direction, they could start from a simpler code base than what we have here. And it's also a simpler platform for people to gain an understanding of how the code works that we use here. So that would be the idea there. And I apologize about the coughing, as I mentioned. Slight cold. Don't worry about it. Yeah, so the idea with Zultralord there is something derp-proof. So, simpler bot, just set up some configuration then, and it should be able to get it to connect. So essentially, the bot on easy mode. Okay, so, We made that connection, I think because we made the reference, everything's going to work still. And it does, so everything compiles. We haven't confirmed that it actually works, per se. So I need to fix this namespace. You'll notice it's highlighting it, because I need to make it match the namespace of the library we're in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reload this site. We're going to refresh this overlay page. Actually, I can do it here. I don't need to do the one above my head. And then once I do that, I can say ping pong, ping pong, ping pong, and let's type hype. Okay, so what that confirms right there is that my hype command works, our hub works, and all that stuff works while being in that external library. So notice my SignalR hub, no longer in my web project, it is out here. My hype command, no longer in the web project, it is out in a library now. So we have pulled these dependencies out of our web project. So along those same lines, I know SNB is in chat and was talking about extracting Hangfire, I think, from, was it SNB? Someone was using that, might have been SNB. Could have been Greendolf, I don't remember. Someone, that's a regular here, was SNB? Okay, I was right. I just realized, I'm like, wait a minute, I don't remember exactly who said that. Someone did in chat. So Hangfire is a web-dependent piece. I'm not going to do it right now, but we're going to move Hangfire over into the web project if we don't just toss Hangfire, one or the other. But I don't like having the dependency over here in the web project. Shouldn't be here. This should be focused on, like, client interaction code. This is views, this is web pages, this is, I should say this is Razor pages, this is views, this is controllers, this is view models. And obviously the www root folder, but that's the kind of stuff that we want to have in the web project. Everything else that we can get out of here needs to live over in the web-dependent project. In fact, things like our extensions are probably all going to move over to that web project as well, though I'm not going to do it right now. This is just the starting point for it. Okay, so we move this, we confirm that it works. I want to fix the namespace, so we're going to do that. So the new namespace on this is DevChatter bot, infra, and web, and this was for the hype command, so that goes away. Now in our hub, I need to do the same thing, moving that into its new namespace. And then this, and do that as well. So we're going to resort those using. Someone will smack me about that, but it's okay. There we go. Much nicer. Draco, I'm really glad. So what Draco's referring to, I believe, is our Learn to Code in C# series that we do here on the stream. And if you want to find the videos for that, click on the video tab above us, and you'll find the 4 episodes that we've done that are beginner-level tutorials on C#. Okay, so this is just reordering those usings, and probably changing these ones as well. This is the hype command, moving over to its new project. So I'm going to call this extract hype command and bot hub to infra.web project. Sorry, I did a rebuild, Zultralord, so I have to run the bot again. That is part of the fun and the problem with running the bot directly on here. Whenever I actually do a recompile, the bot does leave the channel. So if I ever do that, that's why it disappears. Do you need to fix the database entry for the hype command? Ooh, SNB, yes, I will need to fix that. Good call. The hype command is about to break. So that is a good catch, SNB. We need to build something for that. So SNB's correct about this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add an issue into our bot. Commands break when namespaces change. Okay, so commands that we have in the system already stop working if you change their type name or move them to a new namespace. We should verify each we should make sure to compare Ultralord, is stuff not working? I don't know what's working. Oh, yeah, you didn't. It must have been a typo when you wrote that. Rock, paper, scissors actually isn't going to work right now. We should make sure to compare the list of aliases on startup. Make sure they're valid. If not, we should fix them. This, you know, this actually sounds easy enough since we just have to adjust it on startup. I think that's a good first issue for someone. This is a bug, it's a good first issue. On startup, we add commands to the alias table. We need to make sure that it either fixes or adds a new entry for commands whose name or namespace change. Okay. Yeah, Ultralord. Spelling tends to be important. We have a lot of typos, especially a lot of programmers, especially those of us that are, I'll say, self-taught in their typing technique. So, like many developers that are out there in the world, I am one of those people that started working in, DOS back in, long time ago. And I can tell you, when you started, if your first computers were DOS computers, you did a lot of typing, just sort of hacking away on keyboards, as I did. What we ended up doing is learning all these really weird, bad habits in our typing, and it is very strange. One of the things I can't explain to people that came up, so I currently use a split keyboard. It's one of these, so it's got this, hole in here, right? And that actually makes it a little bit more comfortable when I'm typing. I don't use this for gaming. I use a wired connection for gaming. This is a wireless keyboard. And so it's finicky sometimes, but I like the feel of it. If I could have gotten this in a wired version, I would be ecstatic. But I am stuck with a wireless version, and the problem that I run into that is a weird one, for those of you that don't know, this is what a keyboard looks like. I don't know how well you can see those letters on there, but you'll notice that the T and the Y are split. If you take a look at your keyboard right now, if you're at a computer, I hit the Y key with my left hand and the T key with my right hand. Why I do that? I have no idea. That's just kind of what I got in a habit of. It's what I should say what I did. But I am comfortable with split keyboards now. I got comfortable with them about a decade ago. And I kind of got used to it. When I'm on a split keyboard, I rarely make that mistake. However, when I'm back on a regular keyboard, I revert back to my old style of typing, and I do still do that crossing over. Makes no sense, but hey, when you learn to type by just doing it, you develop some weird habits. So, okay, red wine and DevChatter on stream. Very nice, S&B. What are you talking about? It's red wine. No, we're drinking Pepsi here on stream. Pepsi. And Zultra Lord, no, back in the day we did not have tab completion. Leary, I will check that out. I would love to know more about some other nice keyboards. I always like having a nice keyboard that's comfortable and works pretty effectively. So, yes, keyboards are the tools of developers. They are physical tools. The most important ones, of course, being your monitors, your keyboard, and your mouse, as they are how you're going to interact with things. And I said monitor, but I obviously mean monitors. If you find me a developer that usually works only on one monitor, I will be impressed. Quiet Challenger, hello, welcome. You should do a day where you try to program something only in Notepad and see... challenge days, Rubik's. Yeah, we could definitely try those. I would be terrified to do it. Yeah. One of the cool things is you really can program .NET Core stuff in C# in Notepad if you want to. Quiet Challenger, yes, the hype command does sort of work. Let me get the bot running so you can see. Yeah, if you look above my head, you'll see that there's a little hype thing. Let me refresh it so it goes away. So it is gone now. And if you type hype, it doesn't come back because it's broken, because I didn't fix the thing. Hang on, let me go fix the thing. Chatterbot table. It is the command words table. That was a fail moment right there. I just need to come down here. I'm going to delete this. Yes. Alright, now we're going to go back here. Run this. There we go. And I'm going to refresh the overlay on the screen. Hype. Maybe? No. Really? WTF. Oh. You know what? I know why I didn't find it. I know why a hype command didn't work. Hang on. Here's what we're doing. We're gonna go fix it. I know what the problem is. Set up database. So we hard-coded in some default data that gets added to your database when you run the bot the first time. This makes it a little bit easier when you're starting up so you don't actually have to add some data. We just created some objects in here and insert them into the database. Get you a good starting point. But our setup database code here needs one other thing. We only pull commands out of the core project, and we need to get them from elsewhere. So that is actually why we ran into this problem. Definitely want to fix that one. Let me check chat really quickly, because I see you guys typed a bunch of stuff. Your typing falls apart when you're in VS Live Share. That could happen. You use a single monitor and would much rather have a single large resolution monitor than many multiples. That's why workspaces exist. Oh, yeah, Spartan. Yeah, if you actually have a ginormous monitor, awesome. I know a few people that work on very, very large monitors also. Yeah, like a giant, yes, SMV, a giant curved monitor would be fantastic. Coding in VR or something like that, very cool too. Essentially, we just want as much screen real estate as possible. If it could be a single monitor, all the better. Because even if you want to see multiple things at the same time, you know, you can tuck them into corners and put them wherever you want. Let's see, the default window command with, that's right, yeah, so multiple desktops now is a thing in Windows as well. It has been on the, it's been in Linux and you know, forever. I think Mac picked it up after Linux did. I'm surprised Windows hasn't, like, didn't get it sooner. You want to be... Very nice, Ultralord. Is it true that you learn better faster to code by writing it down on paper? Rubik's, that actually might be. Jen's Duck, hiya. Yeah, there is something that people have said about remembering better when, like, the physical, like, writing of letters, I think, triggers extra things in your brain as opposed to typing it. I don't know the actual science on that, but it's an interesting concept. Oh, and by the way, Jen's Duck, I like the name. Also, did I mention Go Ducks? You know, I am, you know, I don't think your name means this one, but but welcome. I am a fan of the Ducks, and by that I mean the rubber ducks. No, S&B, you need to... No, not Mighty Ducks. Rubber Ducks. Rubber Ducks, Zultralord. And no, as far as I know, pencils do not give you IntelliSense. Glad you approve, Jen. Good job. Your pencil has ReSharper built in. There you go. Alright, so, here's the problem that we ran into. I grabbed this assembly, and I pulled in that. So, very nice, Jen's Duck. Yeah, Zultralord, what's a pencil? We pulled this assembly. This assembly is our core assembly. We checked this for all the different types that we wanted to find. And we're using a convention suffix in that we want to treat something as a command. We want the word command to be on there. That's just a safety net to make sure that we don't pull in something that's not a command by mistake. If we're doing something at some point, since it is auto, we might as well make sure that we really did get what we wanted. So our hype command needs to come in. So this is just an enumerable of defined types. So for now, I'm going to call this core types. And I guess we can union these when we're done. Although technically we probably can just add them together. Mayan Anger, welcome. Yeah, it has been a long time. I do recognize the name though. So you've definitely been here before. I'm not crazy. I mean, I am crazy, but I'm not that crazy. So I'm going to do that. So that's our core types, and I'm going to call this our web types. Which actually, now that I think about it, I wonder if I can get all assemblies. What is it? C# reflection, get all assemblies. I forget how we do that. Get all active assemblies in a solution. So runtime, all assemblies, app domain, current domain, get assemblies. Yeah, we'll try it. Why not? Let's see what this gets us. App domain, current domain, get assemblies. Cool. Let's do it. Okay. Whoops. Select many. Defined types. What did we call this? All types? There we go. Only mildly crazy there. Okay, so what I just did, so that no one gets lost here, I want to do a little bit of catch up. Sorry I wrote that code fast to start with there. But I do want to get you a quick explanation. So what I did was I went out and I said, hey, let's get all of the currently running assemblies, so that's everything that's making this project work. From that, I did a select many. So this is a link command. And by link command, I mean it's a link extension method that gets me access to a method. It takes in this lambda. This lambda is a selector that says for each one of these assemblies in here, I want to grab its collection of defined types. If I had just done a select, what I would get instead is I would get an IEnumerable of the collection of defined types. So I would have a collection of collections. I don't want that. I want it to give me all the items from all the collections. So if you do a select many, what that does is that actually goes out and it not just grabs it grabs each one of the items from all of those and puts it in one giant enumerable. So that's actually how select many works. Super, super useful for this exact case. Import module pencil. Nice. Sorry, just jumped in, stole the show. You are welcome to jump in and steal the show. If people in chat want to talk about awesome stuff and make it fun, you are welcome to. Yeah, so see, rubber ducks. So it's been awesome. Okay, reflections seem difficult to get my mind around. It's like code that yes, exactly, Ultralord. So the idea here is this is code accessing code. So it's really weird, and it's mind-bending sometimes, and it lets you do some dangerous things that you probably shouldn't do. So if you are going to use reflection, always be careful with it. Okay, so this will get us all of our assemblies. From our assemblies, we're going to grab all types that are defined in it. However, I am realizing something else. Okay, so we're saying is not a subclass of data entity. That's weird that we chose that one. But I also want to say where x dot here's the change I want to make. I want to exclude our unit test project, if I can. Yes, we do implement a particular interface. So, but I recall there being an issue with that. Let's find out. S&B made a very good point that we do want to take a look at here. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to run this and see whether or not this works at all. So first off, assemblies. This should have a bunch of them. It does. So here's part of the challenge. It's got a ton of assemblies. So what we want to do is this. S&B is correct. We are going to say .where x equals x dot is subclass of type of ibot command, and we're gonna hope that this does not exclude the commands that we want. And I say that because they don't directly subclass it. Okay, so I'm going to run this again. We're going to step one spot over and find out what our concrete commands are. So we have all types. When we do this, we should end up with concrete commands. Might end up being null. We'll see empty collection, no results. Okay, well, that's a bummer. I want to make sure that we actually get this, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to toList here, because I want to make sure that we really have the values. Yeah, see, that's the problem, S&B. I think if it's subclassed, it has to be a direct subclass. I don't think you can be a grandchild. And that is the problem we're going to run into. And I think it's this that's overruling it. But let's find out. We're just going to confirm. And I apologize for not doing this in a unit test. We probably should have written all this code in one, even if we weren't going to keep it around, just because it's easier to run it and verify what's going on. So maybe I will do that in a moment, and we'll see. Count 30. Okay, yep, that is the line that does it. Okay, so here's what we're going to do to make this a little bit nicer. I'm going to hop over here into our scratch testing project. We're going to hop back over here. So I highly recommend this to anybody that is wondering. Oh, Pyro, that's actually a really good idea. Wait, no, because we don't have an instance of it. We'd need an instance of it, I think. Yeah, Pyro, I think we'd need an instance of the object in order to use is. So, is my reference, is auto class, is class, is constructor generic type, is interface. We don't want that. We want, is there anything else having to do with interface? Ooh, implemented interfaces. Implemented interfaces includes type of ibot command. That might be the one we need right there. That might be the one. So actually, before I go and do the scratch testing thing, I think we might be done. Let's see what this gives us. Everybody get ready. Everybody get ready. Concrete commands, 19. Ooh, that could be right. 19 could be right. Greendorf. That's actually an awesome way to do it. It won't... Greendorf, so sounds like you've looked into this one. So question, I assume then that the implemented interfaces, this is going to get all of them, so without having to step up. So either way, that is pretty awesome. So, excuse me. Yeah, sorry, Zultralord. Just takes a while for the transfer to happen. You're just gonna have to wait for the sudo to complete there. Okay. Now let's find out, did we have the right number of commands? And actually, now that I think about it, before we continue on with that one, let me steal this. I want to make sure that the number we come back with is the right number. Oh, and then it was just wearing right off of those. Okay. We just now got our C# Fritz host. Someone else must have been live and getting the C# Fritz host. Welcome everybody that's in C# Fritz's channel. I don't know what you were just watching, but welcome. This is DevChatter, and we are doing a little bit of C# and ASP.NET coding here, so hopefully you are up for that. I expect that you are, being from C# Fritz's stream. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't think we got an auto host from C# Fritz or Visual Studio today. So that's actually kind of surprising. They must have added a bunch of other people to their auto hosts there, which is awesome. For anyone who hasn't noticed, the developer community around streaming on Twitch has been growing, so that is quite nice. So we'll see how that goes. hopefully we're then about to get our Visual Studio auto host. We'll see. I don't complain about auto hosts coming in. Usually pretty nice. So this gets us our types. That's our assembly. So if I do that instead of that, defined types is our collection here. So this is not our commands. This is our types. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use types instead of all types. Comment that out. And debug. I just want to get a quick check here. Zultralord, are you posting links in chat? What are you doing? That was a joke. I know you're not posting links in chat. Probably just got confused about something and thought you were posting a link. 19. Okay. So the extra 11 or so were coming from somewhere else. So in that case, let's get rid of this. We're going to use all types again, which means types can disappear and that can disappear as well. There we go. Convention suffix. So we're going to say const string for now, even though it doesn't really matter. It's going to live right there. We'll have that as a constant. I don't know how that, I don't think I know that one, Ultralord. Is there some sort of internal initiative for streaming coding at Microsoft? There's you, NukeCat, Fritz. Spartan, I actually don't know if there's an actual like internal initiative going for getting live streaming going. So as far as I know, NukeCat has been, and yes I say NukeCat instead of like NoOpCat, but as far as I know, NukeCat has been streaming for years now, a couple of them at least, and Fritz, I believe, started, like 8 months ago, something like that, 9 months ago, and started up his stream a while back, and he, I think, just started getting into it and was thinking, like, actually make that part of his job. I am trying to promote the greater community of developers and build a community of devs that work together, and that hopefully will include streamers and things like that. That actually was my intention even when I started this, is that I do want to help build a community of developers, and some of them even as streamers. I would love to make it so that we can have more developers sharing their knowledge with each other through open source projects, through streams on Twitch, YouTube, Mixer, wherever it is you want to put them, and essentially build nice communities of devs working together on stuff. Well, wasn't live coding at some point turning into pay to watch, because that's when I stopped using it at all. So I do know a handful of developers that were doing live coding a few years ago, and some of them wanted to make sure that they could, yeah, exactly, Zultralord. So what they wanted to do was they wanted to make it so that they could treat it as a day job, essentially, by just charging to get access to the content. Now, I don't want to go that route. Just as a heads up, I would love to be able to do a lot more DevChatter stuff than I do, but the route I want to go is having as many people in the community as can, contributing and supporting streams and content that they enjoy, but never with like the requirement that people actually, pay for the service, because the idea is that you can get some people to support something that allows other people to then watch it for free. So we don't want to have that barrier. That's part of the reason why I do things like the Learn to Code stream, for example. So someone that's not a sub might want to, I should say, someone that's not a developer isn't going to sub, because that is something that's a huge, it's like, oh, they already aren't a developer, they're interested in learning to program, but are they going to make an investment into paying money for something? Like, they're not going to pay $25 a month to watch this thing. But that's actually what they end up doing is they are able to you know, just go and watch a video. And so as long as there's free content for them, it's great. And so that is what I would rather do, is have free content available on Twitch and YouTube and everywhere for people to be able to watch, because too much is actually behind paywalls. That's not to say that I don't have content of my own that's behind paywalls. Obviously, I put content on DevIQ and I put content on Pluralsight, two training websites, but those are more targeted as like, this is a course on this topic for professional developers and teams that want to learn this topic. And so in that case, a lot of times the developers are getting that money from their company. So their company's the one actually paying for it, which is why I don't worry about it too much, because there's a lot of value in a company in educating their developers. So that's why for those ones, I'm cool with a paywall. But for things like live streaming and coding and things like that, I would much rather not have that. Okay, let me catch up on chat real quick. You'd rather watch for free and support those who think does best. Zultralord, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'm glad you like the channel. And so technically I do actually have a Patreon that I set up a long time ago, but I haven't actually like used it or promoted it or anything like that. So it technically does exist. So nice, Ultralord. I am actually going to set that stuff up at some point, but what I don't want to turn the channel into is me going around saying, hey, yeah, I need you guys to give me money. Because I actually do still have, a day job. Sort of, I'm an independent consultant. So actually one of the things I'm doing after the stream today is sending some estimates to potential clients and getting doing contracty paperwork stuff. The annoying side of being independent is that you do have to do that stuff from time to time. So nothing quite like signing up new clients. Always a blast. Okay, so we've confirmed this code does seem to work. Let's go ahead and get the bot running, confirm that we can run our commands, and I'm hoping, cross your fingers, that the hype command works again. So what we're going to do, I am going to refresh this overlay. There we go, that overlay should be refreshed. We're going to try the hype command. I don't know if it's going to work. Okay, it didn't, so what we're going to do is this. I am going to debug it this time, and we're actually going to step through and see what happens with the hype command. We should have one. Nice, Ultralord. Yeah, so, actually one of the clients that I am getting stuff to here soon is a client that is paying for mentoring stuff, so I am going to be sitting down one-on-one pairing sessions with him and just working through code, so that should be fun. I do enjoy that. It's nice to dig through client code with someone, help them figure out how to make their code better, and teach them new stuff. So when we get here, we end up with all types, and this should be a collection with... Really? I can't use a lambda expression at this point, but I should be able to do this. Roulette command. Okay. What are first and last? Viewers command. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. So that should be the last one. Yep. Interesting. I'm not sure whether that's in there or not. I wish it would let me do a lambda in here. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna put this right here. where... ReSharper, quit helping. Where name starts with H. I'm going to store that in a variable. Toss a breakpoint there. We're going to run this. Okay, what is over here in chat? I used to go through tutoring through... Yeah, exactly, Pyro. I just have to put each one in there then in the watch list is the problem because it doesn't do a collection nicely. So I could put each one of those in there and then we could watch and refresh and hope the order changed, but I don't think it will. So I'm going to do this instead. I'm going to step one line further and hope that this ended up with something. Heist, Hangman, and Help. No hype. So hype didn't get in here. Excuse me. You're saying if I toss this over here and expand this and then this, actually, yeah, that works reasonably well. But then this one, it messes up the names. Oh, I did all types. I didn't want all types. I wanted concrete commands. Derp. Was that what I did last time? Expanded the wrong collection? I expanded the wrong collection. That was silly. I could have done that the whole time. No one yelled at me about that, huh? Okay, so it looks like it did core games, which begs the question. What's in my list of assemblies then? Is my assembly missing? Maybe my assembly's not in here. DevChatter, infra Twitch, infra EF. Thanks, Quiet Challenger. No, so here's the problem. So it didn't actually... I'm wondering if my assembly didn't get loaded yet. So here's my thought process. So the hype command, I think, should be loaded. I think. But we don't have the alias to call it yet. So in here, we aren't loading that assembly. So what I'm going to do is this. Var my assemblies equals assemblies dot where x dot full name starts with DevChatter. We're going to toss the breakpoint here this time. And this, it really does... So for this one, we won't be able to do this from a unit test because this really is about having the correct data loaded at actual runtime. So we really do need to be running in the primary assembly. So a unit test in another class library would not give us the correct result here. We need to know what is actually running at runtime in our application. So let's jump down to here. We're going to step one more spot. Put in my assemblies, expand that out, go down to the results. Web, core, Twitch, and EF. That confirms it. That's why it didn't show up. So we probably did get the right code, but our assembly's not actually being included yet. So the first thing to confirm is we definitely added a reference to it, so it is getting pulled in. Notice Google API wasn't included either. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at where this was run, because I'm thinking maybe this executed before we got to the startup method that would have called anything from those assemblies, which means the assemblies were, okay, quick explanation, because I want to make sure that I'm clear about this, because there's a lot of understanding about ASP.NET and how it works that I want to convey to you all. Okay, when we compile our project in Visual Studio, our ASP.NET project, what it is going to do is it is going to take all these dependencies over here on the right that are listed in the dependencies section of our web project. At compile time, it is going to take these libraries, it's going to use them to build and put them in the output directory of our project. So, just to show you that, I am going to open up this directory right here, and inside of bin debug net core app 2.1, you will notice that all of the libraries that we compiled end up here. So this includes our InfraWeb DLL, and this is the library that we want. So at compile time it was available, we built it, put it here, and because we were able to build the web project right here, it means we had access to it at compile time because we know that there was a dependency on it. So that is actually what allowed us to get to this point. However, at runtime, you'll notice all these libraries are here in this output directory. If .NET does not need the assembly, it will not have loaded it yet at runtime. So at runtime, it's going to run our web DLL, and that's actually what gets run when we run .NET Core. Okay, this is the actual assembly that is running. It's going to pull the views from here, it's going to run the project, this is going to have things like the interaction layer, our controllers, our razor pages, and things like that. What is going to happen is when it needs something from core, it's going to load this into memory as well. So these two highlighted projects will be in memory. Well, from the core project, it realizes it needs to actually get this piece that's over here in Entity Framework to access the database, so it pulls this into memory as well. By the way, this isn't the correct order, I'm just giving an example. And when it needs to make a connection out to the Google API, it's going to do that as well. So the reason why Google API has not been loaded into memory yet is because this is not part of our startup process. It's actually not needed until we go to run the schedule command. In addition, the Twitch library isn't really needed until we're building classes that are used to connect to Twitch. So, when it needs to make a reference here, that's actually what it's doing. The problem is, I believe we have not yet referenced the infrastructure web project at runtime by the point that we get to this line in code. So remember, everything's happening in an order, and I think that we ran this database update before we built up our dependencies in our IOC container, because our IOC container is the first place that we will run this, because we're going to define the hype command as being needed as part of our libraries, and I think that might be where it is. Stuggy, yes, we can force this assembly to get loaded by referencing something from it. Alternately, we could just add it, one or the other. So, here are our options. As I said, we could run it. I want to confirm one thing though. I want to confirm the ordering, because if we did the other ordering, what that means is I didn't include something from this project, but I thought the hub would do it. So let's confirm. So this went to get the missing command words. I just want to confirm our theory first. Ensure the initial data is right here. That is part of setup the repository, and setup the repository happens in startup, and startup happens right here, which I am betting, yes it is. It's right at the beginning of this, it happens before that. Okay, so that means that what the evidence we just found matches the theory we already had. Doesn't confirm that it's definitely what's happening, but it sure does seem likely now. So, here's what I want to do. go back into Setup Database. We're going to go back down to this code where we wire these up right here. And our two options, I mentioned there were two. Write to Twitch command and a bunch of if statements instead. Yeah, we could do some if statements if we wanted. We could just hack this in here. So what we did before was we grabbed the assembly based on compile time information of which assembly to grab at runtime. So that's how we were manually grabbing one. So what we did before, as you'll see in the previous code, if I open it up, we said get this type, grab the assembly associated with that type. So obviously I could just come in here and I could say type of hype command, and I could say assembly, and we could add this to our list of assemblies, and that would work just fine. Okay, we could do that. That'd be okay. Wouldn't be the worst code that any of us has ever written to just add that in here. Interestingly, I think doing this and even referencing this here might actually fix it. Hang on. I'm not gonna add to the set. Let me just test a theory real fast. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna run this code. We're gonna catch that breakpoint here when we're debugging. There's our assembly. Assemblies. My assemblies start with DevChatter. What ended up in my assemblies? Expand this. See? My theory worked out perfectly. That is exactly what was happening. So now that we've referenced it here, and we go one step further, so this is not actually the way that I recommend fixing it, and now it's 20 in the collection instead of 19. So that did exactly what we expected. So I'd say that pretty well confirms our theory there. That is exactly why it didn't show up in the set. So notice now at runtime, because I have touched this assembly, this hype command, by even accessing this type, that means that this got loaded into the runtime assemblies. So heads up, just so you know, as soon as you go and use an assembly, as soon as you do that, .NET has immediately gone and grabbed that and included that in the runtime assemblies. So once we did that, that was running in our current domain and we had access to it. So I did not actually have to union that into the set or anything like that because it's already there, because it happened once. Okay, so that gets this in the right spot. That's not what I'm going to do. Yeah, S&B, I'm not going to leave it. That's not going to stay here. But yes, you're right. If we did do it this way, we would definitely want to comment it. Okay. So I'm going to leave this here as our debugging check. That my assemblies lets us confirm that things are working the way we expect. We need that assemblies list to include the web project. Okay. So in order to make this work, so if we did this, we could just say access the assembly, make sure it's loaded. So that's what we would comment for this one. Yes, exactly. So if this were to stay here, this is why we would want to have a comment. So pro tip, especially for the beginners that are here in the stream, that I do want to mention, and S&B kind of alluded to it, and Quiet Challenge is confirming it as well. If people have ever told you to write comments in your code, the most important type of comment that you can put in your code is not a comment explaining what the code does. It's a code explaining why you wrote the code the way you did. So in this case, we want to tell someone else, hey, this is why this is here. You also might do something to say, this is why I did it this way. So, for example, on these, it would not be unreasonable for me to say something along the lines of, have to use implemented interfaces because his subclass of doesn't get grandchildren, or something like that, right? So I might put this is a comment that I'm not actually going to put here, but this is an example of the type of comment that you would want to have. So in this case, that's explaining, because someone might be like, well, why didn't you just use his subclass? Because that would handle it. And it's like, well, it's not a subclass of that. It's just one of the implemented interfaces. And so that is why we do that. So comments should explain why you did something a certain way. Future developers, you assume a future developer can probably read your code. If you have code that is confusing or weird, or you did something in a clever way, that's another time to comment it, or make sure that it's in a very well-described method or variable. Because your future developer, you want to assume the future developer is smart, but you don't want to assume that they can figure something out immediately. So all of you are smart, that's why you're able to write code. That's not to say that, you know, oh man, no, developers, they're brilliant people, way superior to the rest of society. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that you have to be reasonably smart in order to be able to understand the logical processes that are running through code. And all of you clearly are, because you're able to even follow along. The challenge is that if you make something clever that requires that someone be smart, I don't just mean that you assume they're smart and can figure things out. I mean it is required to be smart. That means a couple of things. That means when you read it in the future, you have to start thinking. And we don't want to think about how code's written or what is being done there. What we want to do is just look at it and just know what it's doing. You want to just look at the code and read through it and be like, oh yeah, I get it. Okay. Yeah, so looks like you grab all the assemblies, and then you grab all the defined types on it, and then you store that in a variable all types. Got it. So that's a collection of all the types that you're going to be working with. And then you go down there and you filter down the types because you say where their types are of that command. They're not abstract, they're not subclasses of that other type, and they end with that. Okay, cool. So those are our concrete commands. Done. I get it. And so that's the idea. And odds are I'm going to be the one reading this in the future, so I need it to be clear enough that I can understand it even while I'm streaming. Because one thing that you guys have all probably noticed, I think you all probably realize Brendan's probably a better developer when he's not streaming than when he is. Because I can tell you, when I'm streaming, I am not as good a developer as I am when I'm not streaming. Because I'm busy talking to you guys and thinking about where we're going with the stream and what we're discussing and reading your text and comments and chatting with you guys. And it's also kind of weird to just be, you know, presenting this whole time, because that's sort of what I'm doing. And it clutters your brain a little bit, and occasionally I forget about the most obvious of stuff. So if it ever comes up, chime in, tell me about it. Trust me, we all have our derp moments where we forget the most simple stuff exists. It happens even when you're not streaming. Okay. Greendolf, 90% of my comments for clever code are just links to the Wikipedia page about the algorithm. Okay, so that's also fair. If you pulled a complex algorithm from another place, you want to link to it. And that even includes if you grabbed something from Stack Overflow. It's a good idea to link to it. If you did yank something from there and it wasn't just like super obvious, link to that so that you can go track it down later. And yes, I mean so you can go track it down later. Not so that like someone else might also, but you want it for your own purposes as well. Spartan, yes. Code that I wrote 6 months ago might as well have just been written by someone else. Yep, because I need to always be clever enough to even understand my own code. Use any commenting frameworks. So, Stuggy, I assume you are talking about like a documenting framework, so like something that, like Doxygen, things like that. Is that what you're talking about, Stuggy? Oh, Zyron Blue, that's awesome. I'm really glad you are learning to code. And yes, it is a grind. So I have used them before, Stuggy, and they are pretty effective for a lot of things, but I don't recommend that people just use those. I do usually recommend that you do some additional work like on top of what those will do for you. There are also a lot of tools for building your documentation on source control platforms, so you can do things like the way that docs.microsoft.com work. The funny thing is, I actually worked for a company a bunch of years ago where I built them a new documentation system. Sadly, they aren't using it, but it was actually all based on that same concept of you wrote Markdown, stored it in source control, and the site built based on that. So I actually built one of those many years ago. And Zyron, one thing I should mention, yes, that link that, so S&B mentioned that, but there's also the link that I just posted here, which is information about that. So if you are interested in learning C#, go check out that link to see our event. So we do a series called Learn to Code in C# here. So if you are a beginner in programming or you're just new to C#, you really should check that out. We will do our best to assist you in learning that, because we do like essentially what we do on those days when we do those is it's a follow along exercise. So I'll be writing some code on stream and you guys can follow along by doing the same code. And Illicit Gamer, welcome, thanks for following. But what you'll be able to do is you just install some simple tools. We actually only have you install the lightweight tools, so essentially the minimal stuff to be able to code in C#, to make the barrier low and easy for people to get started. And then people are able to follow along. So if you take a look at the events link that I posted in there, you can actually get reminders of the events. And I'll show you what that link goes to. So it goes right here. And if you go here to this event, you can actually watch the videos of episode 1. You could watch the video of episode 2 by clicking on this one. So you could watch episode 2, episode 3, and episode 4, which have all happened. So that would actually get you up to date with everything that we are doing in our Learn to Code series. And then you can actually click this button to get reminded of the future events. So you can actually be there live and actually ask questions while we are doing it. So it's actually quite fun. And I think if you click this one, it'll give you reminders of everything in the event, which is probably the way to go, because I am going to add more episodes to our Learn to Code series. We only have 6 in here right now. But yeah, if you want to catch our streams, that is the best way to do it. Hannibal, would it be type.isAssignable from type be a replacement? Ooh, Hannibal, that might work. Let's give that a try. Is assignable from. That might do it. Good suggestion, Hannibal. Zyron Blue, that's awesome. If you're getting comfortable with HTML and CSS, so those are great languages to be able to help you when you want to get into programming. Because web development, you'll find some people that are critical of web development, to which I would argue more people are doing web development, I'm pretty sure at this point, than any other kind of development, because of how important the web is to essentially all that we do in our world. So web development is really where pretty much all development lives today. Thanks to, the ease at which you can have multiple users, and it works well on mobile and a variety of other things. Okay, so first off, how many types did we get back? Let's see, results view. Whoops, not all types. I wanted concrete types. How many concrete types did we get? 0. Nope, that didn't work. I don't think that one's going to cover us there, Hannibal. Because I think this might be the opposite. Determines whether an instance of a specified type can be assigned to an instance of the current type. So let's reverse it. It's assignable from X. So let's do it that way, because I think I got that backwards. Yeah. Yeah, see, there you go. Hannibal just said I have to switch it. Yep, which I did. Let's see. Someone said something else. Just because web dev is everywhere doesn't mean it's enjoyable or well architected. Okay, yeah, sure. Greendorf, that is actually true. Talking about front-end development, yeah, sometimes it's not architected well. And I will tell you straight off the bat, I am much more experienced in architecting projects on a back end than I am on the front end. So that's not to say that I don't make an effort to structure things well on the front end. I just have many more years of experience on the other side. Okay, so that did not reduce our number of connections. Let's go ahead and try this. We're going to remove this line this time and run it again. And now we should still have our 20 options. Pyro. Okay, so what Pyro's talking about is absolutely true. If you have to support a lot of different browsers, web development is going to drive you crazy. 20. Cool. That seems to work. So we will do that. Is assignable from. Fantastic suggestion there, Hannibal. Thank you. That worked out well. So I can tell you, having had to support old versions of Internet Explorer using JavaScript, CSS, and things like that on web projects, it is a nightmare to have to actually support old versions. Which is why I am always thrilled when a client comes back to me and says that we don't need to go back, say, before like IE 9 or something like that. That's like, oh, okay. Yeah, we can totally do that. Now I would rather they say you don't have to go before like Edge or something like that. Okay, so Stuggy. The is assignable from is not necessarily always better, but it's a little clearer. So before I was asking if it had that interface, now I'm saying can we assign from it? And the idea here is that, okay, so I guess there's one thing that I want. Okay, let's have a small C# discussion, because why not branch into a C# discussion here on DevChatter? We're going to chat about some code. So C# is an interesting language. So the assignable from works nicely because this does not have to be an interface. This could be, I can use the exact same line of code. So let's say that I wanted to say not only is it an ibot command, but I also want it to be a base command or something like that. Right, these pieces of code are going to work the same way. And then I've got this nice parity of like things look the same and it works well together and looks nice. However, the interesting thing that I want to bring up about C#. C# has a strong type system. It's what we call a strongly typed language. What that means is that everything has, all these objects, they have a type, okay? And these types can get used to assign different things. So if I have an object, let's say that my object is an ibot command, it is an interface that implements ibot command. That type implements that interface. That means if I have a variable of the type of that interface, what I'm actually able to do is take any variable that implements the interface and assign it, or any object that implements that interface and assign it into that variable. And welcome, Smart ASCII. I'm glad you finally got here. It's been quite a while since I've seen you in the stream, but hype. Smart ASCII's a streamer that actually does gaming streams, and I watch him. He's actually quite good, very fun. So the idea is that you can assign it to that. So that's what this is talking about. So you can take an object, assign it to a variable of that type. So that means if I have a variable that is of type X, I can assign it into a bot command. Now the discussion of what I want to change about C# is an interesting one. So there is a concept in that you've heard of before, and I want to address it this way. There's something called duck typing. Now, I don't want duck typing in C#. Duck typing is dangerous. What I want is something slightly different. Smart ASCII. No, I've got better lighting now, so if my camera has improved, that is actually why. So the idea here is that I want... explanation of duck typing. If it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So duck typing is, it's not classified as a duck, but we're saying since it meets all the characteristics of a duck, we treat it as a duck. So that's what duck typing is. So if I wanted duck typing, that would mean that I were saying if it has all these, then we treat it as an ibot command even if it isn't one. What I want is a slight difference. I want to allow you, as a developer, to say something like this. And don't worry about the keyword or the syntax or whatever it is. I want them to give us this power. And actually, I'm going to show it to you with a smaller interface just to make it simpler. So I want them to give us this. I want to be able to say something like public auto interface I overlay display. And if we did this, I would want, hang on, we're gonna do this, copy that. I would want a class foo. Because of this word auto, I want this interface to be treated such that anything can implement it as long as it matches. So essentially building in the ability to say, for this one, for this interface, I want you to allow anything to be assigned to me as long as they match my interface. So that's actually the concept that I want them to build for us. Now, there are a couple of ways that C# can actually do this much nicer than some other programming languages can. So I'm going to show you something that was actually a proposal in C++ a while back and is similar to this. Interesting. So, essentially, C++ is thinking about adding in something similar to this. So I know that this, Rubik's, we should still be live. And I apologize to anybody who is here and watching. My internet has been giving me trouble this whole stream. It's like coming and going, so if I get choppy, don't worry, I'm still probably live. But the idea here is, what is this? Concepts light. Concepts. We'll just take a look at this one. So C++ is thinking about adding in this same concept. They've been thinking about adding it in for a long time, but it is really hard to build it because the holy grail of this is that you don't add to compile time, you don't slow down at runtime. So you essentially want to get new features for free. And this is what you want in all programming languages. You want to get everything you can, adding in new features without it being a cost to the developers using your language, and you want to give them a new thing. Pyro, so you want them to match to an interface even though they did not implement the interface. Yes, exactly, Pyro. Kind of like the pattern matching for the class. Yes, exactly. So they're giving us pattern matching, which is kind of covering this a little bit. And I want them to expand it to give us this. So they're already kind of going down this route. I actually started bringing this up to... So for anyone who doesn't know, I should clarify, because someone actually mentioned something and I didn't actually get this fully clarified. I know I got interrupted before I finished. I am not a Microsoft employee. I am an independent consultant. My association with Microsoft is that they have probably like 50,000 NDAs from me that I've had to sign with them for various things. And by that I mean I've gone there on special things to work with their teams on software before it comes out. Example being like Windows Azure. They brought me out as a special consultant to build stuff, so I was invited out to Microsoft campus to work with Windows Azure when literally I could run Windows Azure on my own computer. Yes, at one point it really was like that, which ought to blow your mind a little bit. That was many years ago. I also get invited out there every year to go to their MVP Summit. And when I go out there to the MVP Summit, obviously I'm under an NDA as an independent expert as part of the ASP Insiders group. And I've also been a Microsoft MVP for a number of years, so they made me sign like separate NDAs for that program, for these various other programs. I've been to Visual Studio Insider meetings and other things like that. And essentially, I get a lot of information from them. But I get a lot of information from them, and I'm not allowed to talk about certain things until certain points, and etc., etc. But the nice thing is I get the chance to talk to people like Mads. And so when I'm out at Microsoft, I am able to talk to the C# team. And what I do when I'm there is I complain to them about features that we've been asking about for years and suggest new ones, like this one. And I think the most recent time that I brought it up, they were fairly receptive to the idea, and I'm hoping that means they're trying to find a way to get it in here. And I think they might be going the pattern matching route to do it. As I said, I don't care about the implementation for how they do it. I just want them to get me the feature. Now here's why. The problem that we run into as developers is that we often have to access code used by another person. When someone else writes the code, maybe they didn't write an interface. They just wrote a class and I now need to use it. Or maybe I don't like their interface because it's got too much stuff in it. And I still want my type to use a couple of their methods. Well, the only option I have today is I write a wrapper class that has theirs as an internal object, and I use its methods. And that's really the only option I have today in order to get an interface that works with my classes and theirs. But it would be so much nicer if I could just do this and just say, oh, this is an auto one, so now I can treat yours this way, and it just says, hey, do you match the type? Cool, you do? Alright, awesome, good. We're golden, and then I can just move forward. Many of you may not know this, so I have a question for everybody who's in here. Programming question, fun programming question. Who can tell me what is required in C#? This is a classic question, by the way. Void for each test. Hang on, let me not mess up my typing here. Whoops. So, here's the question. I want to use a for each loop. Var foo. This is a variable. Okay. Whoops. Collection equals new list of, we'll say, string. Okay. Did someone figure out my question? I hope that you aren't the reason we all have to Windows Metro. Pyro, I'm not. I have no involvement in Windows Metro. Don't worry, that's not me. So you work with people from Microsoft. How well is the code they write? Is it clean? I heard that it is better than Apple. Rubik's. Actually, the Microsoft team has a lot of brilliant people on it, especially like the ASP.NET team. If you see some of the stuff those guys, and C# team, some of the stuff those guys come up with is actually really amazing. They are brilliant. Okay. Well, you shouldn't be able to do anything wrapping with just a public rational class like this is a bad class. Yeah. Talking about for each, people still use Rubik's. People do still use for loops and for each loops. Okay. Hey Rexy, welcome. Okay, so here's your question, everybody. I am using a for each loop in C#. I am passing in a collection. I can pass in this, let me call my collection a list. Right? I can pass that into my for each loop. let's make array. So I'm going to make a string array. Whoops, string array. Okay. I could pass this string array in here. So who can tell me, what is the requirement for the right-hand side there of my for each loop? That variable that I'm using right here where my cursor is? Who can tell me what is actually required to be in there? Pyro says it's an IEnumerable. Okay. S&B knows the answer. And Blub, you're almost right. Blub is almost correct. S&B's actually got it. It actually just has to have a getEnumerator method. Let me show you. So here's what we're going to do to prove it. Public class has enumerator. So I'm going to make this. We're going to make it an IEnumerable of type string. Right? Hey, Codair. I love the name. Thank you for the host. Welcome, Codair, and anyone else who was in there in the chat. Appreciate the host. Hopefully everybody's having a good day. We're talking a little bit about C# right now. A little bit of the fun of C#. So, here's what I did. I made a hasEnumerator, and we're going to do this. We are going to call hasEnumerator. We're going to pass it into our for loop, and hooray, everything's compiling. So that means that enumerable works. This was the suggestion from Pyro. Yeah, see, that's just it, Pyro. Everybody thinks you need the interface, but let me show you the cool thing. If I remove this, let me actually get rid of those because I can't do it that way. Get rid of this. I now have a getEnumerator method. Why is this complaining? I don't think that's actually that complaining. I think that's a lie. Yes. So welcome everybody. Thanks for following. I thought I needed the interface. I don't believe it does. And Greendorf, by the way, this is implemented by yes. So at the beginning of this discussion about types, I mentioned actually Pyro. I think it is lying. I mentioned that duck typing is a thing. Oh yes. Good call, Stuggy. You got me covered there. Okay, so now once we do this, so I think Stuggy read the error message. What brilliant idea. So notice I'm not implementing IEnumerable. Somehow this is just treated as a collection, despite the fact that there's no way that this is correct. Right, I can just return null here. This thing is gonna bomb like crazy, but boy is this like... But it compiles, it builds, that's all that's required. But if I were to remove this, all of a sudden, the for each loop is complaining. And now the interesting thing is, it says type is not enumerable in that little, sorry, the text is really small there. That error message actually says does not contain a public instance of the definition for getEnumerator, because that's actually all that was required. So clearly they already sort of have duck typing in C#. We know that. C# itself has a very robust type system, and because of that, what it means is they could simply deal with making an actual structure for how to have that kind of requirement. So in the case of a for loop, that's happening in the compiler, that it's figuring out that that's a loop and is being handled special. It's not like it's a method parameter. It works a little bit differently in C#. But I want to be able to have my method parameter say, essentially, I want to be able to accept a variable that has this, I want to be able to accept an object into this parameter. I want my argument to pass into that parameter. and have a specific method available on it. So that's actually how I want that to work. I think it would be really awesome. You can do this with the .add methods for collections too. For the collection initializer. Oh! Greendolf, really? I didn't know the collection initializer worked with the add method. If that's the case, that's actually really awesome. So that's actually really cool. So what Greendolf is saying is that if I did something slightly different, so this will not be a collection, but let's make it a, what is it? Is it iCollection? Is that the one that has the add method? No. iList must have add, right? iList has add. There it is. Select none, select that one. Okay, so I told it I want the add method, so we have an add method right here. So he's suggesting that I might be able to create this with a collection initializer now? Ooh, nope, what's it need? Oh, it does need IEnumerable though. It says. Okay, so we can do this with IEnumerable. The question is, can I remove the add method and still have it work? Nope, there it is. Okay, so you have to be an enumerable with an add method to use the collection initializer. So good call there, Greendolf. That's another cool thing to learn about C#. Is that apparently all that's required in order to use the collection initializer is that you are an enumerable and you have an add method. So that was pretty neat. So very cool stuff, very cool stuff. I don't know if I've mentioned before on the stream, but I'm a big fan of C#. It is a very good language. There's a lot of fun stuff about it. Lots of little intricacies to learn. Not that you need to know these in order to program in C#. Some of them are just fun, we enjoy, things like that. Let's see. Visualization of complex data structures. Yeah, so for anyone who hasn't seen it, the index initializer in C# is also very cool. How do you add a new method to an interface without touching live code of the class that uses the original interface? So yes, Stuggy, the best way to do it is to do an interface, and it's not inheriting from the first, it is implementing the first. Because you are actually, well, I guess, sorta, you implement interfaces, but yeah, that's the idea, is you'd have one that just implemented the other, and you can continue on. And yeah, you could do an extension method onto an object, but Dreams, welcome. Thanks for following. Hopefully everybody's having fun today. I'm having fun. We're doing a little bit crazy stuff. Yeah, so what Blub is talking about there is slightly different. But Blub is talking about a feature that is supposed to be coming in C# 8. So for anyone who hasn't seen that, let's jump over here. Where is the official thing? Here it is. So the candidate for C# 8 has a whole bunch of features that they're planning on adding. Default interface methods is one of them, and record types. So nullable reference types is going to be awesome, but the thing I'm most looking forward to is records. And if you don't know what records is, I'm about to give you an awesome explanation of what this is. And I guess the explanation isn't all that awesome, but it's an explanation of how awesome this is. So here is the idea. We create a lot of objects in C#. And when we do that, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we have to type. We create things like this. Let me show you. We're going to do an example. Hang on. I'm going to do an alt insert class 1. So I have this class. I might want to give it a constructor. Yeah, constructor. In this constructor, I might take in a value name. In addition to having name, I actually want to be able to store that as a property. So I end up with a property, I end up with a constructor. Usually you have your constructor initialize every single one of the properties. That's very common, especially when they're just native types like strings. Well, I might want to be able to compare my class 1 objects. So in order to do that, I then go along and I say, I want this to implement, I want it to be equatable. So I do this. I add the iEquatable interface, and I end up with an equals method and all this other stuff. And let me go ahead and shrink this just so you guys can see all the code there. So all this lets me do is compare two of these objects. So when I check equality, I can say that yes, this class 1 is different from that one because they have a different name property, like that. And so I get all of this awesome stuff in here. And if I do this for every class that I write, that's a whole lot of crud that I'm doing, and it's basically working the same way every single time. Well, record types, and there are other differences as well, but one of the nice things about record types is you basically just define what your properties are, and you get the constructor and the equality and all kinds of other stuff for you. It's actually going to be quite nice. Until we get that, we're stuck in our world with a whole bunch of stuff that we have to do by hand. You want is not. ISNOT is more of an Apple thing. Very nice, ASCII, very nice. Records are different from tuples. Yes, Dougie, records are different than tuples, although interestingly, you can get some interesting, so some of the dynamic types, anonymous types, things like that, come with a lot of the same advantages that records are going to have. I want expressions for attributes. Oh, to be able to have expressions inside of attributes in C#. That, if that's what you mean, Blub, that would be very cool. I agree. I would actually love to have a lot more expansion of what can be inside of an attribute in C#. Attributes in C# are very powerful, but very limited. They are one of the older features in the language. So for anyone who doesn't know, attributes are like this. So you put square braces above a class or a method, and you can add in different information about them. We commonly use, the place that you'll see them all the time is inside of tests, because it's common among test frameworks to attribute their test methods and classes. And it's also common if you're a web dev to see them as well in your controllers for authorized attributes. If you've ever seen those, that's what we're talking about. But still, I don't get why it implemented in the operator, but not in the inverse. Oh, yeah. To be honest, I don't know, Pyro. Maybe it's because you can just... you could wrap the whole thing, because the is gonna... Well, yeah, but now that... That's a good point, because... okay, so, Pyro, I want to get into the complexity of that. Let me check the rest of chat really quickly, because I need to show an example to talk about what Pyro's talking about, because it's very cool. Yeah, so, Pyro, there's a catch, though. So you're very right. They should have that, and I'm gonna talk about why here in a second. How long before C# supports every type handling system? Yeah, screened off. So, as a lot of us have noticed, they're adding all kinds of cool things to C#, which are very powerful and very useful. That's one of the reasons why I am such a proponent of using C#. So I will tell you, I always think that people should use the language that is appropriate for what they're building. Some languages are very focused in certain tasks and are better for that. Some are more general. Some are good at certain things, some are good at others. Obviously, if this were 5 years ago and you needed to build an app that was cross-platform running on Windows, Mac, and Linux, I would not send you to C#. I would probably send you to Java, but that's only because you needed to be on Linux and Mac also. If you were able to be a web app, I would send you to C# and have you do ASP.NET MVC. 5 years ago, we're saying. Obviously, if you're doing something else, I might steer you in another direction. So I have a lot of friends that use C++ and C and absolutely should not be using C#. They really do need it. And that's why I point out you should be choosing a language that is good. The other thing, good for what you're doing. The other thing that I like to point out to people when they're choosing languages that they want to learn and use, I mentioned to them that you want to look at the developer community that surrounds them. If there's a vibrant developer community that can help you when you run into things, that are also messing around with things, that are active, that are writing documentation, they're writing articles, they're answering questions, that's a community you want to be involved in. So, for example, I steer people away from VB.NET and towards C#, despite the fact that they run on the same platforms and can do the same kinds of things. There is a more vibrant community around C#. So I point out to people that I don't say that C# is a better language than VB. I like it better, but that does not mean that it is objectively better, because people have opinions on which one they like more. The difference is C# objectively has a more active, larger community than VB. Because of that, you can find more information and get access to more details that will help you if you are in the C# community as opposed to the VB one. So that is part of the reason why I recommend these things. The other thing you want to look at is the stewardship of the language. And by that I mean who is maintaining the language. So in the case of C#, Microsoft maintains the language, which causes some developers, especially the ones out of the Linux community, to kind of steer away from it. They're cautious of it because Microsoft has not been well loved by the greater tech community for a long time. Though if you look at them more recently, even within the past 15 years, Microsoft has gone in a much different direction, moving towards open source, moving towards the tech community as a whole, and getting more involved. So they're not as scary as they were before. But I'm not worried about them like that, because they're called, so within Microsoft there is a division called DevDiv, and they're the developer division, obviously, based on the name. And that division has always been very close with the tech community, and was always pushing for things to be open source and everything like that. And that's the part that has stewardship of this language. So they're the ones that are creating things and pushing things and helping out with the community. So improvements are being made to open source projects, TypeScript, JavaScript, all kinds of things in a lot of spaces are being improved by this. And Microsoft has been making the C# better as it goes. For anyone who knows the F# programming language, which is a functional programming language that also runs on .NET from Microsoft, I almost call that like the testing ground for new features for C#. So they built a functional language, and as they build that, they've had to make sure that, everything's working, blah, blah, blah. And it's fun because as they add functional pieces to C#, they're usually coming like straight out of F#. And we already know that .NET supports it because F# was already running on .NET. So we get all these cool functional pieces in our language that help us do neat stuff, all from this F# testing bed. That's not to say F# isn't a fantastic language, and we shouldn't be using it also, because it is. I haven't used it in long time, and even when I used it, I only used it minorly, so I don't actually know it very well. And I do want to do some of it on the stream at some point, but it is a very, very cool place. Okay. So, and I need to get back to Pyro's thing, but the is statement and the is not statement, and I want to talk about that really quickly. But part of the reason I talk about stewardship is that's also the reason I steer people away from Java. Java is not a bad language. I know a lot of people that successfully use it for all kinds of things. A lot of developers use it. I've got a lot of friends that use it. The thing that has always worried me about Java is the stewardship of the language. I don't always think that it's because it has even changed hands even, I don't think it has been getting the attention and growth that you've seen in C#. And they are similar languages that go in the same kind of direction. And that's why I say, like, if you want to use Java, awesome. If you like it, great, use it. It's a good language, and you can do a lot of things with it. I've programmed stuff in Java. Only like 6 months ago, I finished a Java project, and it worked. It did great. It did the job exactly the way I needed it to. But I would rather be on C#, and that's just me. So as I said, choose the one that you like and use it. AC Fusito, if you're still here, hey, welcome. Java and C# are different. Some people like each one better. I like C# a lot better than Java. They're usually compared because they are similar languages. C# is pretty much just based on Java. C# was basically almost a Java replacement for Windows. Excuse me. Okay. So why would you recommend Rust for people who like to rewrite things, rewrite everything in Rust? Yeah, Blub, totally. Everyone should rewrite all of their source code. More information does not equal better. I got so confused many times I found the answer. Just rewrite everything in every language. You can write in PHP.NET. PeachPy lets you compile PHP to .NET. Yeah, Blub. And Microsoft actually did some benchmarks using PeachPy to compare some stuff, PHP running in .NET, as well as C# code, which was kind of interesting. Okay, so here's what I wanted to talk about. So Pyro mentioned something interesting. Pyro mentioned that there is an is statement in C#, but not an is not. So here's what I want to show you that's kind of cool. So we're going to do is not testing, and I want to show you what the problem is and why Pyro is correct in the complaint here. So what I can do is this. I can say I bought command command equals new, and then I can make an object like, say, a fake command, right? And I'm going to give it some objects. Okay, so clearly, because this assignment works, I know that fake command, bot command, blah, blah, blah. This object is of this type. The actual runtime type is this, but this is what the variable is. It's an I command. So if I say if command is fake command, I can do some code based on this. Now when I do this, I can actually call this fake command, and this is something called pattern matching in C#. So if you're in C# 7 or newer, you can access to something called pattern matching. And so the idea here is it's just checking to see if command matches this pattern, and if it does, it gives me a variable fake command. So I now have access to fake command right here, and I can actually use it. So that's kind of cool. Here's the problem. Because there's not and is not, I don't think we can do this backwards. So if I didn't want this variable and I were just using, is not, like I just wanted to do is not, I could add some additional parentheses around this, and I could add the not command out there, and it would work fine. The problem with that is that I can't then say not fake command. Does that make sense? So the structure of the is what allowed me to assign an extra variable, whereas I can't then get one. I can't use pattern matching ability to assign it into a variable. And that's actually what I lose in this structure. So that's one of the problems. Code error. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, I think I remember Tau Gaming. That's actually really cool. So take care. Thanks for stopping by. And I appreciate the host and everything. If foo is my type bar, and Visual Studio was able to see my type methods on the variable named bar with IntelliSense, but C# didn't like it. Yeah, Pyro. Yes, you would have to do additional null checking there as well. At which point, so there's all kinds of problems. If they gave us it is not, whether they did it like this or like this, I don't care. Either way, that would be really, really nice and greatly appreciated from us. Well, there's a lot of ways that we could have gotten that type from that object. Because we could also say command as, you know, fake command, and then this could get us a variable. But then we could also have command as base command. We can do these, and then we can null check them, and that's another way to check types. So, excuse me, sorry about that. Obviously still have this cough. So those are some of the changes that I would love to see added into C#. And I think it's fun. So obviously DevChatter, I never mind in DevChatter if we take some time to chat about C# and programming in general. That is always in the cards for us to talk about. Some additional things that I want to mention to everybody that are in here. Don't forget that our code is out on GitHub. My bot's not running. Long day, apparently. Okay, once that gets going. Hey, welcome back, bot. All of our code is out on GitHub. And you can check out our Discord there. If you are in chat and like our conversations about C# and everything like that, make sure you hit the follow button to get notified when we go live. And it also helps out the channel quite a bit, because we do actually like having viewers here to talk with us, because you guys are fun to chat with about C#. Other things I want to mention: you can follow DevChatter on Twitter, or you can follow me on Twitter. Obviously, where is it? Right there. That's my Twitter alias. It's also my Twitch alias. Yeah, that's right. I've got 2 Twitch accounts. Hi. Shouldn't surprise anyone. Oh, actually, I just remembered. Hang on. Hang on, everybody. You're going to love this. Look at that. It's my... I'm subbed to myself. Also, I want to mention to everybody that doesn't know that we actually stream 4 times a week here on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays at 2 p.m., 2 p.m., noon, and 1 p.m. respectively. I just posted that in chat. If you want to know what our schedule is in your time zone, you can go ahead and do schedule and then pass in a city, country, whatever search criteria you want. Oh, sorry about that, Mazel95. I can turn that down next time. But if you want to see our schedule, you can type in ! schedule and type in your city, country, whatever, and it will tell you when our schedule is in your time zone. Or you can take a look down below in the panels, and it should also give you information about when our schedule is. There's a panel down there that will show you in our time when it'll be. So, yep, you got that perfect, Alyssa Gamer. So yes, we will be streaming tomorrow. We are about 21 hours away from our next stream. So tomorrow, we're going to be doing some more C# coding. And I haven't decided yet. It's narrowed down to 2 things. We're either going to be working on our game tracker program, which is an ASP.NET web application that is just a simple little thing we're building to... thanks for following, Mazel. It's a simple program to record games that you play with your friends. So you could record board games, card games, whatever you want, but that would be the idea. We're not building that as like something that we want people necessarily to all be using. but it should be a fun thing. Oh, yeah, so Quiet Challenger, if you do want to search for a place with 2 words, you would do San Antonio, like this. Assuming I didn't type that wrong. And there you go. Also, if you wanted to search for a place that had a complicated name, but you knew another city in the same time zone, you could do that as well. What was I saying? I was saying something. I don't even remember. Totally lost. Oh, yes. And Art9000, thank you for following. So what I was saying is that the Game Tracker program is just an ASP.NET web application that we're building. Should be fun. Just, simple data entry things, so closer to business applications that most people are used to. Then on Thursday, and if you do want to see what our planned streams are, you can actually head on over to our GitHub, which I linked in here, and take a look at our stream info page. And from the stream info page, you can actually see any scheduled streams that we have. So if there is a specific plan or an event taking place that day, it'll be listed here. If we're just doing a regular stream where we're coding like we did today, I won't put anything in the topic, so you know it's just a general stream. And that same thing goes for tomorrow. And the reason I don't put anything in there is that I don't want to set the expectation of what we're doing. So I'll usually mention what it is that we're doing that day. So if you ask me, I'll probably say, hey, yeah, we're going to be doing this. Kind of like I already told you that tomorrow I'm planning on either doing the game tracker, or we might do a programming exercise where we'll just do a one-off tomorrow, and that could be fun. But I don't want to set the expectation that, yeah, that's definitely what it is. So it's not set in stone if something comes up. Or if you all convince me to do something else, I'll do something else. So DevChatter is a community, and we are all involved in it. So if you guys really want to see something else, we can work on, one of our other projects. And the thing I want to mention, Thursday, we're going to have Chris Woodruff on here, and he is going to, pair program with us. It should be fun. He is another, how to describe it, community person. He's a Microsoft MVP, another one of the guys that goes around speaking all over the place. So, good guy. I like him a lot. And Forcer, welcome. Thank you for following. And S&B, I am glad you enjoyed the stream. I like to keep it lively, which, as you can probably guess, was a difficult thing today, what with having a cold. But I am glad that you all enjoyed the stream. And hopefully I will see you all tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then I will see you on Thursday. Remember, we start 2 hours early on Thursday. Thursdays we start at noon my time, but hopefully you check the schedule. And in addition, for anybody who does want to chat with us, I highly recommend, I just linked it over in chat, joining our Discord. Feel free to just chat with other developers over there. As I said, my big thing here is I'm trying to create a community. So I want us all to be, active and chatting with each other, because, heck, I want to be a part of a fun developer community. I think probably a lot of you do also. So, nice, easy place. It's like Slack for gamers and Twitch streamers and things like that. So, hopefully I will see you all on Discord, and see you next time on DevChatter. So, hype. Thanks for being awesome today, everybody, and I will see you all tomorrow. Take care, happy coding, enjoy the rest of your Monday.